25. John Thornett. John Captain Courageous Thornett is one of the most revered figures in Wallaby history, a leader who embodied the amateur-era ideals of integrity, toughness, and versatility. His 12-year, 37-test career is remarkable for its breadth. He was one of the few players to be selected for the Wallabies in 3 different positions: second row, flanker, and prop, proving his incredible utility and deep understanding of forward play. Thornett's primary legacy, however, is his leadership. He captained Australia in 16 tests, including on 2 of the most significant tours of the 1960s. He led the Wallabies on their 1963 tour to South Africa, where they made history by drawing the series 2-2, including back-to-back test victories, a feat no other nation had achieved against the Springboks on their home soil at that time. He also captained the 1966-67 tour to the British Isles and France. He was known as a tough, uncompromising, and highly intelligent player who commanded universal respect from his teammates and opponents. Alongside his brothers, Dick and Ken, he formed a famous sporting family. John Thornett was the ultimate Wallaby, a man who led from the front and guided Australian rugby through one of its most challenging and formative decades with unparalleled dignity and strength.
24. George Smith. George Smith was a revolutionary open-side flanker, a player who redefined the position with his unique blend of technical brilliance, uncanny instincts, and relentless work rate. He was, for a decade, the premier fetcher in world rugby. Smith's game was built on an almost supernatural ability to read the play. He was a master at the breakdown, with a low center of gravity and a vice-like grip that allowed him to steal opposition ball with astonishing regularity. Unlike many open sides of his era, Smith was not just a defensive specialist. He was a superb attacking player, a fantastic linkman with the handling skills of a back, and a powerful, elusive runner who scored 9 test tries. He was also a devastating copybook tackler. He won the John Eales Medal twice, 2002-2008, and was nominated for the World Player of the Year multiple times. He was a key part of the 2001 British and Irish Lions series victory and the Wallabies' run to the 2003 World Cup final. His durability and consistency were incredible, becoming the youngest player at the time to reach 100 test caps. He finished his main Wallaby career with 111 tests before making a remarkable, unexpected comeback in 2013 to play in the series against the British and Irish Lions, proving he was still a world-class operator.
23. Nathan Sharpe. Nathan Sharpe was the quintessential Wallaby warrior and one of the most durable and respected locks in the modern era. His 116-test career was a testament to his toughness, longevity, and unwavering commitment. Sharpe was an engine room workhorse. His game was not defined by flashy highlights, but by relentless, unglamorous toil. He was a master of the line-out, a brilliant tactician who led the Wallaby set piece for a decade, and a tireless defender who consistently topped the tackle count. He was also a deceptively skillful player, possessing soft hands and a high work rate in the loose, often acting as a key link man for the forwards. Perhaps his greatest attribute was his leadership. He was a calming, indestructible presence in the pack, and captained the Wallabies on 10 occasions. He was so respected that he won the John Eales Medal, Australia's top rugby prize, twice, in 2007 and again in 2012, the year of his retirement, proving his enduring class. In his final test match, he was given the rare honor of leading the team out against Wales, a fitting tribute to a player who embodied the grit and spirit of the Wallaby jersey for over a decade. He was the unbreakable anchor of the Australian forward pack for his entire career.
22. Joe Roff. Joe Roff was the complete modern winger, a player who had it all: size, blistering speed, defensive grit, an astute rugby brain, and a reliable boot for goal kicking. Standing 6'4", he was a formidable physical presence, but he combined that power with genuine finishing pace and agility, making him a nightmare for opposition defenses. Roff was a prolific try scorer, finishing his 86-test career with 30 tries. He was also an accomplished goal kicker, often stepping up to take long-range penalties, and he amassed 244 test points in total. Roff was a key member of Australia's golden generation, playing a crucial role in the 1999 Rugby World Cup victory, where he started in the final. He was also instrumental in the 2001 British and Irish Lions series, famously intercepting a pass to score a length-of-the-field try in the decisive third test. He's one of only a select few players to have won 2 Rugby World Cups, having also been a squad member in 1999. Beyond his attacking prowess, Roff was a superb all-around footballer. He was brilliant under the high ball, a solid, reliable defender, and possessed the versatility to play fullback or center at a world-class level. He was a 2-time Super Rugby champion with the Brumbies and a player who consistently delivered in the biggest moments.
21. Mark Ella. Mark Ella is arguably the most naturally gifted and instinctive fly-half Australia has ever produced. His international career was extraordinarily brief, lasting only 4 years, yet his impact was so profound that he is still spoken of in revered tones. Ella played the game with a unique, almost preternatural vision. He was a master of anticipating play, putting his teammates into space with perfectly timed passes, subtle feints, and brilliant attacking kicks. He was not a player of raw pace, but of pure guile, seeming to glide through gaps that others couldn't see. His crowning achievement was the legendary 1984 Wallabies Grand Slam tour of the British Isles. As the team's chief playmaker, Ella was the architect of their attacking brilliance, and he achieved a feat that will likely never be repeated. He scored a try in all 4 test matches against England, Ireland, Wales, and Scotland. It was a perfect demonstration of his attacking genius. He formed a telepathic partnership with his twin brother, inside center Glenn Ella, and hooker Mark Loane. Tragically for Wallaby fans, he retired from the sport at just 25, at the absolute peak of his powers, stating he had achieved all he wanted to in the game. In just 25 tests, Mark Ella redefined fly-half play, proving that vision and instinct could triumph over structure. He was inducted into the World Rugby Hall of Fame, a true icon of running rugby.
20. Simon Poidevin was the original hard man of the Wallaby pack, a player whose relentless aggression, intimidating defense, and ironclad toughness set the tone for 2 of Australia's greatest ever teams. A tireless blindside flanker, Poidevin was the enforcer, the player who did the gritty, unglamorous work that allowed the superstars around him to thrive. His defensive work rate was legendary. He was a destructive tackler who hunted opposition fly-halves and relished the physical confrontation. He was also a superb line-out jumper and a powerful ball carrier. Poidevin was a key pillar of the 1984 Wallabies that won the Grand Slam against the home nations, where his grit and physicality were crucial in the tough, forward-oriented battles in the Northern Hemisphere. In 1989, he was instrumental in the brutal comeback series win against the British and Irish Lions. His finest hour, however, came at the end of his career. As a senior 33-year-old veteran in the 1991 Rugby World Cup, he formed a dynamic back row with Willie Ofahengaue and Viliami Ofahengaue. His experience and uncompromising play in the semi-final against New Zealand and the final against England were vital in securing Australia's first World Cup. In his 59-test career, Poidevin was the Wallabies' ultimate warrior, the team's spiritual leader, and the man who defined the toughness of a generation.
19. David Pocock. David Pocock was arguably the greatest fetcher or on-ball specialist the game of rugby has ever seen. He was a player of singular, obsessive focus to dominate the breakdown. Pocock was built like a block of granite, with a low center of gravity and immense upper body strength. He possessed a supernatural ability to get over the tackled ball, lock onto it with an unbreakable grip, and win a penalty or a turnover. He didn't just compete at the breakdown, he owned it. His presence alone forced entire teams to change their attacking strategy, forcing them to commit extra players to rucks just to stop him, which in turn created space for his own team. But Pocock was far more than a one-trick pony. He was a tireless, bone-jarring tackler and a formidable ball carrier in his own right. His performance at the 2011 Rugby World Cup was one of the great individual campaigns, where he was virtually unplayable, winning the John Eales medal that year. He then formed a legendary pooper combination with Michael Hooper, where the Wallabies sacrificed a traditional number 8 to play 2 world-class open-side flankers. This tactic was the driving force behind Australia's surprise run to the 2015 World Cup final, where Pocock was again transcendent. A 3-time World Rugby Player of the Year nominee, his 83-test career was a masterclass in breakdown dominance.
18. Stirling Mortlock.
Stirling Mortlock was a midfield colossus, a center who blended the raw power of a forward with the speed and finishing skills of a winger. He was, for much of his 80-test career, the most potent attacking weapon in the Wallaby backline. Mortlock's game was built on a foundation of explosive power. He was a huge, physically imposing man who ran with ferocious intent, consistently breaking the advantage line and scattering defenders. His fend-off was legendary, and his ability to score tries from anywhere on the field made him a constant threat. He was also a superb and reliable goal kicker, finishing his career with 489 test points. His most famous moment came in the 2003 Rugby World Cup semi-final against the All Blacks. With the game in the balance, Mortlock anticipated an All Black pass, burst out of the defensive line to intercept the ball, and galloped 80 meters to score one of the most iconic tries in World Cup history. It was a moment that broke New Zealand's spirit and propelled the host nation into the final. He was also a respected leader, captaining the Wallabies 29 times. Mortlock was the heart of the post-Golden Era Wallabies, a player who carried the team on his broad shoulders and provided world-class strike power in the midfield for nearly a decade.
17. Michael Lynagh. Michael Lynagh was the ultimate tactician, the composed, unflappable fly-half who steered the Wallabies through their first era of global dominance. For over a decade, he was the team's Mr. Dependable, a player whose cool head and metronomic goal-kicking made him the perfect field general. When he retired, he was the world's all-time leading point scorer with 911 points in 72 tests, a record that stood for years. Lynagh was the consummate all-around fly-half. He was a slick passer, a smart tactical kicker, and a deceptively strong defender. He formed an iconic halves partnership with Farr-Jones, and together they orchestrated the 1984 Grand Slam Tour of Britain and Ireland. But Lynagh's crowning achievement was the 1991 Rugby World Cup. While Campese provided the unpredictable flair, Lynagh was the steady hand on the tiller. His most heroic moment came in the quarterfinal against Ireland. With the Wallabies shockingly trailing and the clock in the red, Ireland were on the verge of a historic upset. Lynagh, however, remained ice cool. He called a pre-planned move, hit the line at pace, and stretched out to score the match-winning try in the corner, saving Australia's campaign. He then coolly slotted the winning conversion. He was a model of consistency, a big-game player who rarely, if ever, had a bad game, and the reliable point-scoring machine that Australia's 1991 World Cup victory was built upon.
16. Mark Loane. Mark Loane was a force of nature and one of the most fearsome and influential number 8s of his generation. In an era before professionalism, Loane was a medical student who played with a savage intensity and raw, untamed power that terrified opponents. He was a colossus, a rampaging ball runner who became famous for his ragdoll style, often carrying multiple defenders on his back as he thundered forward. He was the focal point of the Wallaby pack, a man his teammates looked to for inspiration and opposition teams planned their entire defensive structures around. Loane's most legendary performances came against the All Blacks. He was instrumental in Australia's 1979 Bledisloe Cup victory, their first series win over New Zealand on home soil in 45 years. His performance in the one-off test in Sydney, where he set up a try and dominated the physical battle, is etched in Wallaby folklore. He captained Australia 8 times, leading with a no-nonsense, follow-me style of play. He was also a key member of the 1981-82 Wallabies, who, despite losing the series to Wales, were lauded for their dynamic running rugby. His career was relatively short, as he retired at 28 to pursue his medical career full-time, finishing with 28 test caps. Despite the brief tenure, his impact was so profound that he is still considered the benchmark for Australian number 8s, a player whose raw, intimidating power and relentless drive set a new standard for his position.
15. Jason Little. Jason Little was the defensive rock and the perfect foil in what is widely regarded as rugby's greatest ever center partnership. Alongside his childhood friend Tim Horan, Little formed a midfield combination for the Wallabies that was almost telepathic. While Horan was the attacking dynamo and creative spark, Little was the glue, a player of immense skill, deceptive pace, and most importantly, rock-solid defensive organization. Little was an incredibly intelligent player who read the game beautifully. He was a strong, direct runner who consistently got over the advantage line, but his primary role was as the defensive captain of the backline. He was a devastating tackler, famously reliable, and his ability to shut down opposition attacks was just as crucial to the Wallabies' success as Horan's flair. This perfect Horan-Little combination was the backbone of 2 Rugby World Cup victories. In 1991, they were the young, dynamic duo that helped topple the rugby world. In 1999, after Horan's return from a career-threatening injury, they were the experienced, unbeatable veterans who guided Australia to a second title. Little was not the flashy superstar, but he was the player his teammates trusted implicitly. In 75 tests, he was the model of consistency, a world-class operator whose selfless, disciplined, and intelligent play allowed the superstars around him to shine, making him an undisputed great of the golden era.
14. Chris Latham. Chris Latham was one of the most exhilarating and complete attacking fullbacks in the history of the game. For nearly a decade, he was a lethal weapon from the back, a player who combined raw pace, size, power, and a brilliant, often unorthodox, footballing instinct. Latham was a prolific try scorer, finishing his career with 40 test tries, second only to David Campese on the all-time Wallaby list. He had a unique, swerving, and powerful running style that made him incredibly difficult to bring down, and he had an uncanny ability to be in the right place at the right time, looming in support to finish off line breaks. He was also a massive kicking threat, possessing a huge boot for clearing kicks and, when needed, slotting long-range penalty goals. Latham was a 2-time John Eales medalist, 2000 and 2005, and was nominated for the World Rugby Player of the Year in 2006. He was a star of the 2003 Rugby World Cup, helping the Wallabies reach the final. One of his most memorable performances came against Japan in the 2007 World Cup, where he scored a hat-trick of tries. He was simply a player who made things happen every time he touched the ball. In an era that followed the legendary Matt Burke, Latham didn't just fill the number 15 jersey, he redefined it with his explosive attacking prowess, becoming one of Australia's all-time great entertainers. 13. Stephen Larkham. Stephen Larkham was the architect of the Wallabies' greatest attacking era. He was a fly-half of rare genius, a player who seemed to see the game in slow motion. He possessed a graceful, loping running style that made him a constant threat to the defensive line. But his true mastery was his playmaking. Larkham's greatest skill was his ability to hold the ball until the last possible millisecond, drawing defenders to him before releasing a perfectly timed pass to an unmarked teammate. He was the master of creating space. He famously began his Wallaby career at fullback, where his attacking instincts shone, before making a permanent and legendary switch to fly-half in 1998. He formed what is arguably the greatest halves partnership in rugby history with George Gregan, a duo whose contrasting styles, Gregan's combative control and Larkham's silken attacking flair, created a near-perfect balance. Larkham's career is filled with defining moments, but none is more famous than the drop goal. In the semi-final of the 1999 Rugby World Cup against South Africa, a team known for its suffocating defense, Larkham slotted a monstrous 48-meter drop goal, the first of his professional career to break a deadlock in extra time, a moment of pure instinct that propelled Australia to the final. A 102-test veteran and a 2-time Super Rugby champion with the Brumbies, Larkham is remembered as one of the most elegant, intelligent, and influential fly-halves to ever play the game.
12. Toutai Kefu. Toutai Kefu was the personification of go-forward ballast and power at the back of the Wallaby scrum. As a number 8, he was the team's primary enforcer and arguably the most damaging ball carrier in the world during Australia's peak. Kefu's game was built on a simple, brutal premise: getting the ball and relentlessly crashing over the advantage line. He had an immense physical presence and a low center of gravity that made him incredibly difficult to tackle one-on-one, and he consistently drew in multiple defenders, creating space for the brilliant Wallaby backline. While his primary role was as a human wrecking ball, he also possessed soft hands and a deft offloading game that often went underrated. He was a cornerstone of the 1999 Rugby World Cup winning team, providing the raw power that balanced the team's attacking flair.
Kefu's most iconic, career-defining moment, however, came in 2001. In the dying seconds of a Tri-Nations decider against the All Blacks with the Wallabies trailing, Kefu picked the ball from the back of a 5-meter scrum and battled his way through a sea of New Zealand defenders to score the match-winning and Tri-Nations winning try as the hooter sounded. It was a moment that perfectly encapsulated his value: pure power, determination, and a refusal to be stopped. In his 60-test career, Kefu was the engine room, the man who did the hard yards that allowed the golden generation to shine.
11. Phil Kearns. Phil Kearns was the prototype of the modern, aggressive, and mobile hooker, a player who combined the technical proficiency of the front row with the abrasive attitude and ball-running skills of a back rower. He was a central figure and a vocal leader within the Wallabies' golden generation. Kearns's primary duties at scrum and lineout were exemplary, but his true impact came from his ferocious play in the loose. He was a powerful, low-slung runner who relished contact and had a knack for breaking tackles, often popping up in support play to score crucial tries. He finished his 67-test career with an impressive 11 tries. He was also a notoriously hard-nosed and uncompromising defender. Kearns was a key member of the pack that won the 1991 Rugby World Cup, famously scoring a try in the semi-final against New Zealand after charging down a kick. He was also a leader in the 1999 World Cup winning squad, although his tournament was cut short by injury. He formed one of the all-time great front rows alongside Ewan McKenzie and Tony Daly. Beyond his on-field exploits, Kearns was a massive personality, known for his vocal, chest-thumping leadership and his intense, often heated rivalry with All Blacks captain Sean Fitzpatrick, which became a defining feature of the Bledisloe Cup in the 1990s. Despite suffering a catastrophic knee and ankle injury in 1999 that ultimately ended his career, Kearns's legacy as Australia's greatest hooker, a tough, skillful, and inspirational figure, was already secure.
10. Michael Hooper. Michael Hooper was a phenomenon of endurance and relentless effort. An open-side flanker who played with the lung capacity of a long-distance runner and the tenacity of a bulldog, he redefined durability in the modern professional era. Hooper's game was built on pure, unadulterated work rate. He was consistently the first man to every breakdown, a tireless linkman in attack, and a courageous high-volume tackler in defense. He was not a traditional on-ball fetcher like his predecessors. Instead, he was a do-everything flanker who influenced the game through sheer omnipresence. He reached 100 test caps at the age of 26, the youngest player in history to do so, a statistic that speaks to both his talent and his incredible ability to play through pain. He was also a 4-time winner of the John Eales Medal, the most in history, underscoring his value to the team year after year. He was appointed Wallaby captain at just 22, one of the youngest ever, and went on to lead the side a record 69 times. While his tenure as captain coincided with a more challenging, less successful era for the Wallabies, his personal standard never wavered. In 125 tests, Hooper's commitment was absolute, his energy boundless. He will be remembered as a true Wallaby warrior, a captain who led from the front with his actions and left absolutely nothing on the field.
9. Tim Horan. Tim Horan was the complete center. He was the rare player who possessed every single tool required for the position: blistering pace, a swerving, elusive running style, vision and playmaking skills, and a famously brutal, low-tackling defensive technique that could cut down the biggest opponents. Alongside his childhood friend and center partner Jason Little, he formed arguably the greatest center pairing in rugby history. Horan was the creative, attacking spark in the duo. He made his debut at 19 and was a key member of the 1991 World Cup winning side, scoring a crucial try in the semifinal against New Zealand. His career, however, is best defined by his incredible resilience. In 1994, he suffered a catastrophic knee injury that was so severe, doctors initially feared he might not walk properly again, let alone play rugby. After more than a year of grueling rehabilitation, Horan returned not just to playing, but to the absolute peak of his powers. In 1999, he was the driving force behind Australia's second World Cup victory, where he was so dominant in the midfield, so flawless in his attack and defense, that he was named the player of the tournament.
He is one of only a select few players to have won the World Cup twice. His 80-test career is a story of transcendent talent, but it is his comeback from that devastating injury to become the world's best player that solidifies his legacy as an icon of Australian sport.
8. George Gregan. George Gregan was the heartbeat of the Wallabies for more than a decade. He was a warrior in a scrum half's body, a player defined by relentless competitiveness, superhuman durability, and an unyielding will to win. When he retired, he was the most capped international player in rugby history, with 139 caps for Australia. His game was not built on flashy breaks, but on consistency, a crisp pass, suffocating defensive pressure, and an absolute mastery of the game's tempo. Gregan was famously a big moment player. His career is immortalized by two specific acts. The first, in 1994, was his legendary try-saving tackle on All-Black Jeff Wilson, where he sprinted from nowhere to knock the ball from Wilson's grasp as he dived for the winning try, securing the Bledisloe Cup. The second was his taunt of "4 more years, boys," directed at the All Blacks during the dying moments of Australia's dominant 2003 Rugby World Cup semi-final victory. He was a key pillar of the 1999 World Cup winning team, forming an iconic partnership with Stephen Larkham. He later captained the Wallabies 59 times, including their heroic underdog run to the 2003 World Cup final. Gregan's longevity, his tenacity, and his refusal to ever take a backward step made him the ultimate competitor and the engine of Australia's golden generation. He was inducted into the World Rugby Hall of Fame in 2013.
7. Israel Folau. From a purely athletic standpoint, Israel Folau may be the most gifted individual to have ever worn the Wallaby gold. A crossover superstar who had already dominated both rugby league and Australian rules football, AFL, Folau's transition to rugby union in 2013 was seamless and spectacular. Standing 6'5" with a phenomenal vertical leap honed in the AFL, he was the single greatest area weapon in the sport's history. His ability to soar above packs of players to retrieve contestable kicks was unmatched, leading to countless tries and line breaks. But he was far more than just an aerial specialist. Folau possessed a rare combination of size, blistering speed, and deceptive agility. His long, loping stride made him a nightmare in open space, and he had an uncanny ability to beat the first defender, often swatting them aside with a powerful fend. He was a try-scoring machine, amassing 37 tries in just 73 tests, placing him 4th on the all-time Wallaby list. He is also the only player to have won the John Eales Medal, awarded to Australia's best player, on 3 separate occasions, 2014, 2015, and 2017, a testament to his consistent world-class impact. His on-field legacy is one of breathtaking highlights and singular athletic dominance. While his career ended in deeply divisive and unprecedented controversy, his 73-test contribution on the field, his game-breaking runs, his unmatched high-ball prowess, and his sheer try-scoring magnetism cements his place as one of the most uniquely talented backs to ever play for Australia.
6. Nick Farr-Jones. Nick Farr-Jones was the consummate general and the leader who quarterbacked Australia to its first ever Rugby World Cup title. As a scrum half, he was not in the mold of the sniping, mercurial runner. Instead, he was a master tactician, a brilliant field marshal whose game was built on astute decision-making, an iron will, and a precise, reliable service. He formed one of the world's most formidable halves pairings with Michael Lynagh, and their contrasting styles, Farr-Jones as the calculating strategist and Lynagh as the composed point-scoring artist, formed the brain trust of the Wallabies for nearly a decade. Farr-Jones's leadership was his defining quality. He was tough, uncompromising, and possessed an unshakable belief that he famously imparted to his teammates. His finest hour came as captain of the 1991 Rugby World Cup campaign. He was instrumental in navigating the team through immense pressure, including a heart-stopping, last-minute quarterfinal win against Ireland in Dublin. He then led the charge in the semi-final against the All Blacks and the final against England at Twickenham, where his tactical kicking and control were crucial in securing a 12-6 victory. He was also captain of the legendary 1989 Wallabies side that defeated the British and Irish Lions in a brutal, deciding third test. Retiring with 63 test caps, 36 as captain, Farr-Jones is remembered as one of Australia's greatest leaders, a player whose intelligence and competitive fire transformed the Wallabies from a team of brilliant individuals into a world-beating unit.
5. John Eales.
John Eales is, quite simply, the most successful and revered captain in Australian rugby history. Nicknamed Nobody because nobody's perfect, Eales was the complete rugby player. Standing at 6'7", he was a towering second rower who dominated the lineout, combining an athletic leap with brilliant timing and soft hands. But to call him just a lock is to miss the point entirely. Eales had the handling skills of a center, the running ability of a back rower, and, most remarkably, the calm nerve and technique of an international goal kicker. This unique ability made him a tactical weapon. He famously kicked crucial, match-winning penalties, including the last-second kick to win the Bledisloe Cup in Wellington in 2000. He made his debut in 1991 and was part of the World Cup winning squad that year, but his true era of greatness was as captain. He led the Wallabies 55 times, overseeing the most dominant period in their history. He is one of only a handful of players to have won the Rugby World Cup twice, captaining the side to its 1999 triumph. Under his leadership, Australia also defeated the British and Irish Lions in a dramatic 2001 series, won the Tri-Nations twice, and held the Bledisloe Cup for 4 consecutive years. Eales was the ultimate leader, composed, intelligent, and respected by teammates and opponents alike. His 86-test career, yielding 173 points, cemented his legacy as the perfect forward and Australia's greatest captain.
4. Ken Catchpole. Often voted by rugby elders as Australia's greatest ever player, Ken Catchpole was a rugby union prodigy. He was a scrum half who played the game at a pace and with a level of skill that was decades ahead of his time. His pass was his signature, a lightning-fast, perfectly flat, spiraling torpedo that hit his fly half's hands with pinpoint accuracy, giving his backline precious extra time and space. He wasn't just a passer, he was a brilliant tactical kicker, a dangerous sniper around the rucks, and a deceptively strong defender. Like Trevor Allan before him, Catchpole was thrust into leadership at a young age, making his debut as captain for New South Wales at 21 and for Australia on the same day. He would go on to captain the Wallabies in 13 of his 27 tests. He formed a legendary halves partnership with Phil Hawthorn, and together they orchestrated some of Australia's most famous victories, including back-to-back wins against the mighty Springboks in 1965, a feat that hadn't been achieved in over 30 years. His career, like Allan's, was also ended prematurely and brutally. In 1968, in a test against the All Blacks, he was wrenched from a ruck by Colin Pinetree Meads, who tore his hamstring completely off the bone, ending his international career at just 28. Despite this, his status is mythical. He set the standard for scrum half play in Australia, and the award for the best Australian player in Super Rugby is, fittingly, named the Ken Catchpole Medal.
3. David Campese. David Campo Campese was not just a rugby player, he was a force of nature, an entertainer, and a flawed genius who fundamentally changed how wingers played the game. For 101 tests, he was the ultimate game-breaker, a man who could win a match with a flash of unpredictable brilliance or, occasionally, lose one with a moment of casual arrogance. He finished his career as the world record holder for test tries with 64, a tally that still stands as the Wallaby record. Campese's game was built on pure attacking instinct. He didn't just run, he glided, possessing a blistering change of pace and the most famous attacking weapon in rugby history, the goose step. This stutter step, stop-start motion baffled defenders, freezing them for a split second as he accelerated past. He saw the game in a way others didn't, famously throwing no-look, over-the-shoulder passes that were as audacious as they were effective. His crowning achievement was the 1991 Rugby World Cup, where he was named Player of the Tournament. His performances were legendary, most notably his semi-final destruction of the All Blacks, where he scored 1 try and created another for Tim Horan with an outrageous instinctive pass over his head while looking the other way. He was a key member of the 1984 Grand Slam winning side and baffled the British and Irish Lions in 1989. While his high-risk style sometimes led to criticism, Campese's legacy is that of rugby's first true box office superstar, an iconoclast who proved that instinct and entertainment were as valuable as structure and safety.
2.
Matt Burke. Matthew Burke was the epitome of the modern professional fullback. For a decade, he was Mr. Reliable for the Wallabies, a player whose consistency, determination, and booming right boot were the bedrock of Australia's golden era. Burke was not just a goal kicker, he was a clutch goal kicker, a man who seemed nerveless when slotting penalties and conversions from all over the park. His 878 test points stood as a Wallaby record for years. However, reducing him to his kicking would be a gross injustice. Burke was a superb attacking fullback, possessing a deceptive glide and an intuitive sense for entering the backline at the perfect moment to create or finish a try-scoring movement. His defense was equally outstanding. He was courageous under the high ball and a textbook tackler who rarely let his man pass. His career is studded with iconic moments. He was a cornerstone of the 1999 Rugby World Cup winning side, playing every single minute of the tournament and landing 24 points, 8 penalties in the semi-final against the Springboks and 25 points, 7 penalties, and 2 conversions in the final against France. His individual performance in the 1996 Bledisloe Cup match in the rain at Wellington, where he scored all 20 points in a 20-9 victory, is considered one of the great fullback displays. An 81-test veteran and a 2-time John Eales medalist, Burke defined his position through his all-round excellence and unwavering dependability when the stakes were highest.
1. Trevor Allan. Trevor Allan was, without exaggeration, the golden boy of post-war Australian rugby. He possessed a combination of grace, speed, defensive grit, and an innate footballing brain that saw him captain Australia at the astonishingly young age of 21, making him the youngest Wallaby captain ever at the time. His impact was immediate and profound. Allan made his debut for Australia in 1946 against the All Blacks, and his talent was so obvious that he was soon entrusted with the leadership. His defining tour was the 1947-48 Wallabies tour of the British Isles, France, in North America. As captain, he led one of the most beloved and successful Australian teams in history. The 1947-48 Wallabies were the first and only Australian side to go through the home nations undefeated, earning them the nickname the Invincibles. Allan was the star, a brilliant attacking center who could create opportunities from nothing, but he was equally revered for his copybook, bone-rattling defense. Tragically, his career was cut devastatingly short. In 1949, at just 22 years old, he suffered a severe knee injury playing against New Zealand that forced his premature retirement. Despite playing only 14 tests, Allan's legacy is immeasurable. He was the complete package, a leader and a superstar who represented hope and brilliance for Australia in the austere post-war era. He was inducted into the Australian Rugby Union Hall of Fame and the World Rugby Hall of Fame, a testament to his monumental, albeit brief, impact on the game.